My childhood bully became a celebrity. And his actions finally caught up to him. You ever wonder what happens to the kid who made your life hell in school? Yeah, me too. Except I didn't have to wonder. I saw him smiling down at me from a giant billboard one random Tuesday like the universe itself was mocking me. The same person who once shoved my face into the mud, called me loser in front of the whole playground, and then hugged me in front of the teacher, fake crying that he was so sorry I tripped. The same person who won Best Smile in the yearbook while I sat at home Googling how to disappear. He was everywhere now. Let's just call him Josh. Fashion campaigns. Interviews. Magazine covers with headlines like, Josh, the star who stands against inequality. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just stared at his fake smile and remembered the real one. The one he wore right before he twisted the knife a little deeper. I met Josh in 3rd grade. He was the kind of kid adults loved immediately. Charming, funny, those dimples that made teachers melt. Meanwhile, I was, well, invisible on a good day, a punching bag on a bad one. There was one time still burnt into my brain when Josh tricked me into giving him my lunch money. Hey buddy, he said, all syrupy sweet. I forgot mine. You don't want me to starve, right? I hesitated. I really didn't have much. My mom packed me PB&Js and scraped for quarters to give me $1 for milk. He leaned closer. If you give it to me, I'll let you sit at our table tomorrow, he whispered. To a lonely kid, that sounded like a miracle. So I gave it to him. The next day, Josh and his friends laughed me out of the cafeteria. As if we'd ever let you sit here, he snorted while I stood there holding my stupid tray like an idiot. I wish I could say it got better after elementary school. It didn't. Middle school just meant new ways for Josh to ruin me. One time, he started a rumor that I had lice. Another time, he told everyone I cried during a class movie. Spoiler, I didn't. He was Teflon. Nothing stuck to him. He could call someone a freak to their face and still get a gold star from the teacher that afternoon. I remember my mom once asking me why I never wanted to go to school events. I just shrugged and said I didn't like crowds. How could I tell her the real reason? That school felt like being trapped in a cage with a lion who smiled while he tore you apart. Then came high school. New school, new people. I dared to hope maybe, just maybe, Josh would leave me alone. Wrong. Now he was cool. Varsity jacket. Perfect hair. Girlfriend of the month. And me? I was background noise except when he needed a punching bag. I remember one day he accidentally knocked my books out of my hands in the hallway. Oh man, sorry dude, he said loudly so everyone heard. Then he leaned in, low enough only I could hear, you'll always be nothing, loser. And now years later, he was on TV, tears in his eyes, telling the world how much he hated bullying. Saying he knew how it felt to be picked on and wanted to create a kinder world. If there was an Olympic event for hypocrisy, Josh would have 5 gold medals. And that's when it started. The first crack. A tweet. Just a random person, probably an assistant or a production intern, hinting that Josh wasn't the saint he pretended to be. Worked with famous actor once. Dude's not what he seems. People started whispering. And once the whispers started, they only got louder. And then one night I got a DM. From someone I hadn't seen in years. A name I recognized instantly. Someone else Josh had broken. The message just said, you heard about Josh, right? You're going to want to see this. I opened the message. It was from Eric. Eric Green. One of Josh's favorite punching bags besides me. Eric was the weird kid. The one who loved astronomy and wore the same battered NASA hoodie every day. Josh used to call him Moonface and make howling noises whenever Eric walked by. I hadn't spoken to Eric in almost a decade. But here he was messaging me out of nowhere. I clicked the link he sent. A Reddit thread. Title, The Truth About Josh, What the Media Won't Tell You. I started reading. And the deeper I went, the colder I felt. Post after post. Anonymous stories from former assistants, background actors, classmates, even old teachers all sharing their Josh horror stories. One girl wrote about how Josh used to steal her drawings in art class, call them ugly, then submit them as his own. Another talked about how he'd threatened to ruin younger actors' careers on set if they didn't do what he wanted. And then, there were screenshots, text messages, voicemails, proof, and they all painted the same picture. Josh was still the same manipulative, cruel person he had always been. He just got better at hiding it. I sat there, heart pounding as memories flooded back. The way he used to laugh after pushing someone's buttons just to watch them cry. The way he'd flash that killer smile, instantly making teachers think he was the victim. The way he made me feel like dirt for years and got rewarded for it. And now? Finally. People were starting to see it too. I messaged Eric back. Dude, is this real? His reply came almost instantly. Yeah, there's more coming. Big story breaking soon. You want to help? I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no. Let sleeping dogs lie. Move on. But another part, the part that never healed, whispered he never cared how much he hurt you. Why should you protect him now? I typed 2 words, I'm in. Over the next few days, it felt like the universe was finally balancing the scales. More and more people came forward. Former co-stars, ex-girlfriends, assistants who had signed NDAs but were too disgusted to stay silent any longer. Stories spilled onto Twitter, TikTok, Reddit like wildfire. One video even leaked footage of Josh backstage at a charity event screaming at a volunteer because the water was too warm. And all the while, the public watched. At first, there was confusion. Denial. People didn't want to believe the golden boy could be rotten. Maybe it's just jealous people, fans tweeted desperately. But when you stack enough small fires together, it becomes an inferno. The tide was turning. Fast. Meanwhile, Josh's team scrambled. First, they tried to spin it. Josh is passionate. Sometimes he gets intense because he cares so much. Nobody bought it. Then came that apology video. Josh sat in his pristine kitchen, a huge island behind him, perfectly styled bookshelves in the background, eyes suspiciously glossy. I'm sorry if anyone ever felt hurt by my actions. I'm learning and growing every day, he said, voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed but authentic. It was textbook damage control, and it backfired spectacularly. The comments tore him apart. If you have to apologize, if you hurt people, you didn't learn anything. Imagine being bullied by a guy who plays the victim better than he plays any of his roles. The brands dropped him within hours. Netflix pulled his next project. His agent parted ways with him. For the first time in my life, I saw Josh lose. And not just lose. Fall. Hard. But weirdly, it didn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would. It felt hollow. Sad even. Because deep down, I realized Josh had always been broken. He just learned to weaponize his brokenness against everyone else. And then, just when I thought it was over, Eric messaged me again. We're organizing a Zoom call. A bunch of us. People he hurt. We're going public together. Strength in numbers. My hands trembled a little as I read it. This was it. A real chance to speak. To finally be heard. But it also meant digging up old scars. Reliving it all. I stared at the invite link, heart racing. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed my pain, convinced myself it didn't matter. All the times I stayed silent while Josh got praised. Was I ready to finally tell my story? I hovered over the join meeting button, my fingers shaking. And just before I clicked it, I got another message. This time, from Josh himself. My heart stopped when I saw his name. Josh, after all this time, after everything. I opened the message. Hey man, I heard you're involved in that Zoom thing. Look, you know me. You know me. We were kids. We were stupid. Don't ruin both our lives over something that doesn't even matter anymore. There it was. The same Josh I remembered. Not sorry. Not remorseful. Just scared for himself. Trying to guilt trip me one more time. I stared at his words, my mind spinning back through every memory. His smirk when he shoved Eric into the lockers. His fake tears when Mrs. Carson almost suspended him, how she ended up giving me detention instead because he lied so well. The countless times he humiliated me in front of classmates, then whispered, come on, it's just a joke. I could still hear it. Feel it. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Please. We both moved on. Just drop it. Moved on? I thought about the panic attacks I'd had any time I walked into a crowded room. The fear that someone would laugh at me for no reason. The way I still triple-checked every email at work, terrified of making a tiny mistake. Yeah, I moved on. But I carried every scar with me. I closed the message. I clicked join meeting. The screen blinked and there they were. Dozens of faces. Some familiar. Some I hadn't seen in years. Eric gave me a small nod from his little Zoom square. Beside him, Jenna, who Josh used to mock for her stutter until she stopped speaking in class altogether. Next to her, Carlos, whose science project Josh destroyed the day before the science fair. There were so many of us. More than I ever realized. For a moment, nobody spoke. We all just looked at each other, the air heavy with everything we'd buried for so long. Then Eric said, voice shaking a little, we're not doing this to destroy someone. We're doing this because we deserve to be heard. Because what happened mattered. Because we matter. And just like that, the dam broke. One by one, people began to share. Stories poured out raw, unfiltered, heartbreaking. Years of fear, shame, anger, sadness. I listened. I cried. And finally, when it was my turn, I spoke. I used to think it was my fault, I said, voice thick. That if I were just funnier, or cooler, or tougher, Josh would have left me alone. But it wasn't my fault. It was never about me. It was about him needing to crush someone else to feel bigger. I paused, breath hitching. I wasted so many years thinking I was nothing because one person convinced me I didn't matter. But I'm done letting him live rent-free in my head. I matter. We all do. The chat flooded with support. Tears streamed down my face. Not from sadness. From release. I had carried that weight for so long it felt like part of me. But tonight, with all these people, I let it go. The story broke publicly the next day. A massive expose. Detailed. Relentless. Josh issued another statement. A real apology this time, his publicist probably bleeding into the keyboard trying to save his crumbling career. But by then, no one cared. He became just another cautionary tale. Another fallen idol. Projects dropped. Endorsements vanished. Fans abandoned him. And me? For the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. Months later, I stood at an open mic event. Not to sing. Not to perform. But to tell my story. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. The audience clapped. Not for Josh. Not for anyone else. For me. Some nights, I still think about him. I wonder if he's alone. If he regrets anything. If he ever thinks about the pain he caused. But then I remember. It's not about him anymore. It's about me. It's about all of us who stood up and said, you don't get to write our story anymore.